You can only cut a diamond using another diamond. It's the hardest natural material on our planet. Between retrieving the stones from the earth and the finished products you see in jewelry stores, a diamond goes through a complex process. Before they cut it, people need to consider which shape is best for the stone, so they don't throw too much of it away. One town in Norway, located north of the Arctic Circle, wants to become the first time-free zone in the world. The sun doesn't go down there at all between May 18th and July 26th. The locals don't want to follow the classic concept of time to get the most out of their 24 hours. Since they have constant daylight, they can't just act like the rest of the world. You can sometimes see people playing soccer in the middle of the night there, or mowing their lawns and painting their houses at 2 a.m. The Leaning Tower of Pisa is tilted because the soil under the building's surface is really soft. This was probably frustrating for the people who constructed it, but they eventually figured out the soft soil is part of the reason why the tower is safer from earthquakes. Because of the softness of the soil and the tower's stiffness and height, the tower doesn't resonate with earthquake vibrations. So the reason the tower is tilted is exactly why it's still standing, even in such an unusual position. You don't actually see pitch black in a pitch black room. It's a specific phenomenon, where you see dark light. Or as people also refer to it, brain gray. It's a dark gray background many people see in the absence of light, and some even call it visual noise, since it's like an ever-changing field of small black and white dots. Watermelon is definitely one of the most refreshing and hydrating fruits, especially during hot summer days. But if you try some watermelon-flavored candies like gummy or hard candies, they're usually either mouth-puckeringly sour or very, very sweet. They aren't at all like the actual watermelon. It's basically impossible to replicate the great taste in the overly acidic-tasting watermelon candy. That's because its main chemical compounds are rare, and watermelon flavoring uses blends of cheap synthetic artificial flavors. Making high-quality realistic flavoring for candies and juices is possible, but would cost businesses a lot. Some people love the fake watermelon flavor, but most stick to their perception of how that fruity taste should be, and are not fans of it. Why is there an expiration date on a water bottle? Of course, water doesn't go bad, just like salt or sugar. But even though water doesn't go bad, the plastic bottle does. When it starts expiring, it leaches chemicals into the water. It won't make the water toxic, but it can change its taste, so you might not get the mountain spring fresh water you expected. Another reason for the expiration date on bottled water is there's a rule all consumable food products, including water, need to have an expiration date. Also, many companies that produce these bottles use the same machines for bottling sodas and some other beverages, and these do expire. So it's way easier to just put a stamp on all bottles, whether necessary or not, than to buy new special machines just for bottles of water. How come identical twins don't have identical fingerprints? The pattern of ridges on your fingers is unique and stays the same throughout your whole life, which is why fingerprints are a valid feature when it comes to identification. Two people could be sharing identical fingerprints, but the chances here are less than 1 in 64 billion. Identical twins have slightly different fingerprints because the patterns are affected by both environmental factors during prenatal development and genetics. Fingerprints are not just something that's unique to humans. Gorillas and chimpanzees have fine ridges on their fingertips too. They also seem to be unique to individuals, so we all probably inherited this from a common ancestor. Why does a green screen come in green and not some other color? When you film someone in front of a green screen, it's a technique known as chroma keying. The green color gets digitally filtered out so that you can replace it with any footage you want to add. If the subject you're filming is wearing something green, the background image fills that in as well. That's why it gives the impression the person you're filming has holes in them. And green is good for this since it resembles human skin tones the least. Why do you feel dizzy after spinning? There are hairs lining the sides of tiny tubes filled with fluids that are located in your inner ear. When you move your head, these hairs detect acceleration, which means a change in the speed of a certain object. If you spin for long enough, your brain can't deal with the constant turn signals from your ear, and the way it adjusts is to zero them out. At the moment you stop, your ears report zero turning correctly, but your brain is still in the mode where it actively cancels this out. It actually thinks that you have now started spinning in the opposite direction. So, how can ice skaters do all those amazing things on the ice and not feel dizzy? When doing a pirouette, they lock their eyes on a fixed point and keep it that way. They whip their head around really fast when they're not able to twist their neck further. Their spins are really fast, so they gradually train to overcome the feeling of dizziness and learn how to keep their eyes horizontal. That way, the view is spinning around one axis only. Neutron stars aren't that heavy, they're just really dense. So dense that just 1 teaspoon of a neutron star would weigh 1 billion tons. They are the densest and the smallest type of star we know of. Imagine squeezing 1.4 times the mass of our Sun into a sphere no bigger than 6 miles across. They're dense because of the way they form. The balance between an outward pressure process in its core and the gravitational force that tries to contact a star hold it together. When a star loses its supply of fuel, gravity wins, contracts the star, and eventually makes it collapse. When stars between 8 to 20 masses of the Sun collapse, this squeezes their core to be super dense. Their outer layers rebound and bam! Here's a supernova. It leaves behind an extremely dense neutron star. If a star has 20 solar masses or even more, the core doesn't collapse into a neutron star, but into a black hole instead. When you spend a day at the beach playing volleyball, swimming, or doing some other physical activities, you expect to be exhausted. But even when you spend a whole day just chilling around, you'll probably end up just as sleepy. Your body still gets very tired because it's doing a lot, even though you can't see it. First, it's always working to maintain your internal temperature. When it's hot outside, it requires way more effort, and your body cools off in a way it dilates your blood vessels. This boosts blood flow and helps your blood get closer to your skin. Over there, it can offload excess heat. That's also why some people blush when they're hot. You sweat more when it's hot outside, again, to cool down. And your metabolic and heart rate both increase, so you lose a lot of energy even when you're just lounging around at the beach. Why do animals have differently shaped pupils? The pupil is a hole in the iris of your eye that lets light pass through the retina. The iris muscles change the size of the pupil, which affects the amount of light that passes through. Because our muscles are placed in a ring that contracts equally towards the center, our pupils are round. This brings certain benefits. It provides consistent focus over the whole field of view. But circular pupils are unable to constrict as tightly as some other shapes of pupils. Animals that hunt or are prey to bigger animals evolve to have big, sensitive eyes at night. Bright daylight is just overwhelming for them. That's why they have an extra set of muscles that pull the pupil into a narrow slit shape in daily light. Predatory animals have vertical slit pupils, like many snakes and cats. Such pupils help them to have sharper focus across the horizontal field of view and determine better how far their prey actually is. Animals with horizontal slit pupils like sheep and horses don't have sharp focus at the right and left edges, but they have wider peripheral vision. That way, they can spot predators coming after them a lot better. You're staring at the supermarket shelf, thirsty for some water. You'll probably pick the brand you always buy or get the cheapest one there. But wait, next time you buy a water bottle, make sure to check this out. Now, did you know that before you purchase anything that comes in a plastic bottle, the first thing you should do is look at the bottom? That's right, turn it over and look for the recycle symbol with a number inside of it. These numbered triangles actually indicate what kind of plastic was used in the production of your bottle. So, if it's marked with the number 1, know that it's only safe for single use. It means that if you let your bottle be exposed to sunlight and warmer temperatures, it will most likely start releasing toxic substances into your liquid. And drinking that will not be fun for you at all. Now, if the number inside is a 3 or a 7, best to avoid it in general. This is so because these bottles will most likely already be releasing chemicals that penetrate your drinks or food. And, as we know, lengthy exposure to it can result in severe health problems. Best to keep on the lookout for numbers 2, 4, 5, or the letters PP. These are the safest ones to consume from. They are suitable for multiple uses, and you can store them for a long time. But remember, store mainly cold water inside of them and disinfect them from time to time. Putting any type of hot liquid inside of water bottles will mean the liquid inside will absorb the chemicals from the plastic. And still on the topic of plastic bottles, when you see packs of them bundled together by plastic, don't be shy. Open it up and grab as many bottles as you planned on buying. Supermarkets do this as a strategy, since they know that consumers are oftentimes lazy to rip the plastic and end up taking an entire pack of water or soda just to avoid the extra hassle. Now you've moved on to the refrigerated section of the supermarket. You look at all the cheese and wonder which one to take. Well, don't buy the ones that come in little slices separated by plastic. Maybe we shouldn't even call this cheese, as the content of actual cheese is less than 51%. The manufacturers actually have to label them cheese product instead of cheese, and if you look for the fine print, you'll find this stamped somewhere in the packaging. When you're buying hard cheese, you should pay attention to its color, textures, and above all, the holes. First, the cheese must be uniform and without a white crust. And instead of picking cheese that has uneven and asymmetrical holes on it, you should go for the ones whose holes are evenly distributed on the whole chunk of cheese. Oh yeah, and before buying, try squeezing the cheese. It should immediately restore its shape. And there you go, you've got the perfect cheese to buy. Then fish. When picking it, make sure you take a good look at its eyes. And no, it shouldn't be love at first sight. You just need to check if the fish's eye is bright. Clouded and bulging eyes mean that the fish is old and probably past its consuming period. And for the meat lovers out there, make sure you're not buying glued meat. Oh yeah, you heard it correctly. Meat manufacturers have developed the habit of gluing together some pieces of meat before selling them. With the help of a little white powder, manufacturers glue together small pieces of meat in order to sell higher quantities of meat. It stretches the meat supply and helps meat producers to save money by reducing the waste of smaller pieces of meat. To make sure you're not buying glued meat, make sure to look for cracks in packaged meats. Even if that glue can put together meat fiber, it won't hold the fat. So if you've got cracks in the fat, that means that someone tried to glue together 2 or more pieces of meat. And even if you spot some cracks on the fiber, that can be the glue wearing off. Try this shopping hack and never buy glued meat ever again. Then kiwis. Don't buy them if they're way too soft. As it happens, kiwis that are super soft are also extra rotten or overripe. Well, maybe extra rotten isn't something that actually exists, but you get the idea. When kiwis get too soft, they release something called ethylene, which gives the fruit terrible acidity. To know which ones to buy, press your fingers against them and check their consistency. If your finger dips too much, it's a bad sign. But if it dips just a little and the fruit quickly recomposes itself, that's the point you're looking for. Now, if you're trying to eat healthy, don't buy anything packaged that has more than 5 ingredients to it. The baseline is the more ingredients in a packaged food, the more highly processed it probably is. Of course, the quality of these 5 ingredients also counts, but do give it a count next time you're choosing what to buy. Potato chips. Who doesn't love a good crunch? Well, but did you know that most of the packaged potato chips are actually composed of only 42% of potatoes? In the end, it's your choice, but if I were you, I wouldn't buy them. Check to see the ingredients before cracking them open. And those pre-packaged bags of vegetables that tell you they have 8 pounds of potatoes or carrots or apples inside of them? Do you think they really carry the amount they're selling you? As it turns out, no. You can check each bag with a luggage scale to see how much they actually weigh. But usually, those 8 pounds turn out to be 6, and on it goes. It's not that supermarkets are trying to trick us, but it happens that these bags are usually filled in a hurry by packagers. Sometimes, they don't really weigh the amount of produce they're putting into these 8-pound bags. Now, even if you prefer the pink-colored razor blade, don't buy it. Have you ever heard of something called the pink tax? As it turns out, goods that are made for women and girls end up costing 7% more than the same product made for the men and boys market share. It's believed that women are better customers and will pay the extra price for the same products. But if you're looking to save some money, just buy the blue ones. Now, before you buy fresh produce, make sure you take a good look at the PLU codes. In case you don't know, PLU codes are 4-digit or 5-digit numbers that appear on a small sticker that is applied to individual pieces of produce in the USA. A 4-digit code means that the produce was grown in a traditional rather than organic way. Make sure you do take a look at each individual product before they can get mismatched on the shelves. Now, 5-digit codes that begin with the number 9 almost always indicate that the product was grown organically. So, if you're looking for organic produce, these ones are the way to go. Never buy green potatoes. Green potatoes are something that actually does exist, and even if most of them never make it to the store, be aware. Green potatoes can cause health problems and are far from the best quality of potato to be ingested. They become green because they weren't stored properly, or they were way too exposed to sunlight. The green in them is an indication of certain levels of toxins that are harmful to humans, so steer away from those. Don't buy coffee that is older than 18 months. Look at the best before date when shopping. And if you get the chance, prefer whole beans rather than grounded coffee powder. The beans preserve the antioxidant properties from the coffee, and grounding them up just before drinking them is usually the best way to benefit from all the healing qualities of coffee. And last but not least, do your online shopping between Tuesday and Thursday. It may sound strange, but studies have shown that the best way to catch up on really good deals is to shop between these days. Prices are as low as they can get, and if you're looking to save money, forget Sundays. That's a total no-go.